The strange signal appeared on a Tuesday. Jane Miller was working the night shift at NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Station when her screen lit up with unusual patterns. She rubbed her tired eyes and looked again. The signal wasn't random noise. It had structure. It repeated. "Greg," she called to her supervisor. "You need to see this." Greg Peterson hurried over, coffee sloshing from his mug. He stared at the screen, his mouth slowly opening. "Where is that coming from?" he asked. "That's the weird part," Jane said. "Somewhere near Proxima Centauri. But it's not like anything we've recorded before." Within hours, every major observatory on Earth pointed their equipment toward the signal's origin. Commander Henry Ward aboard the International Space Station confirmed the pattern from his orbital vantage point. "This is artificial," he reported to Mission Control. "No natural phenomenon creates patterns this regular." The President of the United States, Kate Miller, received the news while meeting with world leaders in Geneva. The meeting quickly shifted focus. "We need our best people on this," she announced. "Get Dr. Laura Fisher from MIT on the next flight to Washington." Laura Fisher was the leading expert in theoretical communication with non-human intelligence. At 42, she had written the textbook on potential first contact protocols. When the government car arrived at her modest apartment, she was already packed. "I've been preparing for this my whole life," she told the driver. At NASA headquarters, Laura assembled a team of linguists, mathematicians, and computer scientists. They worked around the clock for 17 days before the breakthrough came. "It's a primer," Laura explained to the president over a secure video call. "They're teaching us their language using mathematical concepts as a bridge, and we're starting to understand it." As the message became clearer, excitement spread around the world. News channels ran constant updates. People gathered in parks and squares, looking up at the stars with new wonder. By day 30, Laura's team had decoded enough to understand the basic content. "It's an invitation," she told the crowded briefing room. "They call themselves the Galactic Council, a federation of 27 spacefaring species. They're offering us membership." The room erupted in questions. Laura raised her hands for quiet. "They say they've been watching us for decades. They believe we're ready to join their community. They're offering technology, protection, and access to resources beyond our system." President Miller called an emergency United Nations session. For once, nations set aside their differences as they faced this new reality together. "We need to vote," she told the assembled leaders. "Do we accept this invitation?" The debate lasted for days. Some nations urged caution. Others saw opportunity. Scientists like Peter Bennett argued for immediate acceptance. "Think of what we could learn," he said. "Cures for diseases, clean energy, faster than light travel." Others, like General Frank Martinez, advised restraint. "We know nothing about these beings," he warned. "Their technology would make them gods to us. Can we trust gods?" Laura Fisher studied the complete message again and again, looking for hidden threats. She found none. "Everything suggests they're genuine," she reported. "They even apologized for not contacting us sooner. They wanted us to develop our own culture without interference." Commander Ward sent his opinion from space. "From up here, Earth looks small and fragile. We could use some friends in the universe." After a week of debate, the vote came in, 157 nations in favor, 36 against, 4 abstaining. "We accept," President Miller announced to the world. The response was sent using the communication method the Council had provided. The reply came just hours later, impossibly fast. "They're pleased," Laura told the president. "They're sending representatives to our solar system. They want to meet our delegates." President Miller looked out her office window at the night sky. Who should we send? The answer seemed obvious to everyone. Commander Henry Ward and Dr. Laura Fisher would represent humanity in its first steps into a larger universe. They didn't know it yet, but they were walking into a trap. The U.S. horizon gleamed in the sunlight as it sat on the launch pad. It was humanity's first true starship, Built using the initial technological gifts from the Galactic Council, Captain Eric Johnson stood at the viewport, watching Earth grow smaller as they accelerated away. "Hard to believe we'll reach Alpha Centauri in just 3 days," he said. Susan Clark nodded. As Earth's chief diplomatic advisor, she had spent months studying the limited information they had about the Council species. "I still can't pronounce half their names," she admitted. The crew of 60 consisted of scientists, diplomats, and a small security team. All had been chosen for their exceptional abilities and mental stability. This journey would test them all. On the 3rd day, Chief Engineer Marcus Lee called Eric to the engine room. "Something's odd about these drive systems," Marcus said, pointing to the glowing core. "They're efficient, but not as advanced as I expected." "What do you mean?" Eric asked. "Based on their messages, I thought they'd be thousands of years ahead of us. This tech feels more like 100 years, maybe 200. Eric frowned. "Keep that observation to yourself for now." The rendezvous point was a massive space station orbiting a dead world. As the horizon approached, the crew gathered at the windows. The station looked like a metal snowflake, spinning slowly against the stars. "It's beautiful," Susan whispered. 7 alien ships were already docked. The horizon took its place among them, metal clamps securing it gently. "Remember," Eric told his team at the airlock, "we represent all of humanity now." The airlock hissed open to reveal 3 aliens waiting for them. The central figure stood nearly 7 feet tall with pale blue skin and 4 arms. It wore an elaborate robe covered in what looked like circuit patterns. "Welcome, humans," it said in perfect English. "I am Sandor, first speaker of the Galactic Council. We are honored by your presence." Susan stepped forward. "The honor is ours. We bring greetings from Earth." The delegation was led through wide corridors where members of different species walked or floated. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Eric couldn't tell which parts were body and which were clothing. "You will meet the full council tomorrow," Xandor explained. "Today, rest and acclimate." Their quarters were comfortable but plain. After the aliens left, Marcus immediately began scanning the rooms. "No obvious surveillance," he reported. "But that doesn't mean much with their tech." That evening, Susan noticed something strange during the welcome reception. When council officials weren't nearby, some aliens seemed to look at the humans with what she could only describe as pity. "Did you see that?" she asked Eric quietly. "I did. And did you notice they keep asking about our military capabilities? How many ships we can build?" Susan nodded slowly. "And our population centers, food production." Later, as Eric walked alone back to their quarters, a small alien with ridged skin and large yellow eyes stepped out from an alcove. "Human," it whispered. "I am Zortak of the Nilari. We must speak." "About what?" Eric asked cautiously. "Not all is as it seems here. Your people are in danger." Eric's hand moved subtly toward the communicator in his pocket. "What kind of danger?" Zortak looked nervously over his shoulder. "The council is not what they claim to be." "They." A chime sounded, and 2 tall figures in dark uniforms turned the corner. "Delegate Zortak," one called out. "Your presence is required by the second speaker." The small alien's eyes widened. "Coming, yes." He turned back to Eric and whispered, "Trust nothing they tell you. Look beneath the surface." Eric watched as Zortak was escorted away, the guard standing unusually close to him. Back in his quarters, Eric contacted Susan and Marcus through their secure channel. "Something's wrong here," he told them. "I want all data we collect triple-checked, and nobody goes anywhere alone." Susan looked grave on the small screen. "I've been studying their body language. Many seem afraid." "Of what?" Marcus asked. Eric stared out the viewport at the massive station wrapped around them like a gleaming cage. "I think we're about to find out." Dr. Alan Rodriguez didn't trust gifts, especially ones from aliens who appeared too eager to share. In his lab beneath the Rocky Mountains, he examined the strange device, The council had called a planetary shield generator. "Hand me the scanner," he told his assistant. The young woman passed him a tool of his own design. Alan had refused to use council technology in his lab. The device hummed softly as he passed the scanner over it. The readings made him frown. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered. "There's an energy signature here that has nothing to do with shields." Miles away in Washington, D.C., Security Officer Nicole Perry sat at her computer. 3 empty coffee cups surrounded her keyboard. For 2 weeks, she had been looking for a way into the Council's data systems. The aliens had shared some information freely, but Nicole knew that real intelligence was always in the things people try to hide. "Got you," she whispered as her program finally found a weak point in their network. Nicole's fingers flew across the keyboard. She wasn't supposed to be doing this. President Miller had been clear, don't risk the relationship with the Council. But Nicole had been in security long enough to know when something felt wrong. The files were strange, not quite text, not quite images. But her translation program slowly made sense of them. One phrase kept appearing: Harvest Protocol. Nicole's phone rang, startling her. "Perry," she answered. "It's Alan. I need you to see something." An hour later, they stood in Alan's lab, staring at the disassembled Council device. "It's a beacon," Alan explained. "When activated, it would broadcast Earth's exact location and details about our population, resources, everything." Nicole showed him what she had found. "And this Harvest Protocol seems to be some kind of scheduled operation. Earth is listed under processing. Phase 1. Alan ran his hand through his gray hair. "We need to tell the president." Back on the Council station, Eric and Susan had spent 3 days trying to find Zortak again without success. "We need to see more of this station," Eric said. "The parts they don't show in the tour." Susan nodded. "I noticed something odd on the station maps. There's an entire section they call Historical Archives that we haven't been shown." That night, using access codes Marcus had quietly copied from an unattended terminal, they slipped through the quiet corridors of the station. The security was lighter than expected. "They don't think we're a threat," Eric realized. "They don't think we're capable of questioning them." The archive doors slid open silently. Inside was not what they expected. Instead of data storage, they found what looked like a museum. Display cases lined the walls, filled with artifacts from dozens of civilizations. "Look at this," Susan whispered, pointing to a plaque. "The Thalians, welcome to the Council in Cycle 7249. Population, 8.3 billion. Status, processed." Eric moved to another display. "The Viridians, welcomed in Cycle 7251. Population, 12.1 billion. Status, processed." Case after case, civilization after civilization, all with the same pattern. All welcomed, then processed. "What does processed mean?" Susan asked, her voice tight with fear. In the corner of the room, they found a terminal. Marcus had shown Eric how to use the access codes, and soon the screen glowed with information. "Oh God," Eric whispered as images filled the screen. Planets stripped of resources, species loaded onto massive ships, the ships traveling to somewhere called the Void. And behind it all, shadowy figures unlike any council member they had seen. Tall, thin creatures with too many limbs and eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The text referred to them as the Voidwalkers. The council isn't the real power, Susan realized. They're just finders, scouts. Eric's communicator buzzed. It was Marcus. "Captain, you need to get back here now. We just got a transmission from Earth. Dr. Rodriguez has found something in the council technology. And sir, it's not good." Eric looked at Susan, his face pale in the blue light of the terminal. "We need to warn Earth," he said. "The council has been lying to us all along." President Miller stared at the screen, her face growing paler with each image. Dr. Alan Rodriguez and Nicole Perry had presented their findings to the Emergency Council. The room was silent except for the occasional gasp as the truth about the Galactic Council unfolded. "You're certain about this?" the president finally asked. Alan nodded. "The devices they gave us aren't just technology exchanges. They're surveillance tools, data collectors, and potential weapons. They could be activated remotely." Nicole stepped forward. "And the files I found make it clear. The Council identifies promising species for the Voidwalkers to consume. Consume." General Frank Martinez leaned forward. "You mean as food?" "As energy," Alan explained. "The Voidwalkers appear to feed on both biological and technological energy. An advanced civilization provides both." Dr. Laura Fisher, who had stayed on Earth to continue studying the original messages, raised her hand. "I've been reviewing the first contact transmissions with new decryption methods. There were warnings embedded in them, hidden beneath the main message." She displayed a new translation on the screen. Small symbols that had been dismissed as transmission errors now formed clear warnings. "Beware the false welcome," and "They serve the hunger." "Someone in the Council tried to warn us," Laura said, "but the warning was buried under layers of official messages." Meanwhile, on the Council station, Eric and Marcus were carefully examining every piece of technology they had brought from Earth. They worked in silence, using detection equipment they had smuggled in disguised as medical devices. "They've been scanning us since we arrived," Marcus whispered. "Every room, every corridor. They're mapping our ship's defenses, our physical capabilities, everything." Susan entered the room, her face tight with worry. "I just finished another round of talks with Xandor. They're pushing hard for us to invite a delegation to Earth. They want to survey potential embassy locations." "You mean survey our major cities for the harvest," Eric said grimly. Susan nodded. "I stalled them, said we need time to prepare properly. But they're getting impatient." Eric's secure communicator beeped, a new message from Earth on the encrypted channel. He read it quickly. "Dr. Rodriguez found the same things we did, and Nicole Perry uncovered files showing humanity is scheduled for processing within 3 months." Back on Earth, General Martinez was briefing military leaders from around the world. Maps showed the locations of all Council gift technologies. "We've contained what we can," he reported. "But some devices were already integrated into our systems before we understood the threat." "Can we fight them?" asked a Russian general. Martinez's face was grim. "Based on what we've seen, not directly. Their weapons technology is beyond ours. But we might have one advantage. They don't think we know." In her laboratory, Dr. Fisher worked frantically with a team of linguists and cryptographers. "There's more hidden in these messages," she insisted. "Other species tried to warn us." A young linguist suddenly looked up from his screen. "Dr. Fisher, I found something in the background radiation pattern of the original signal. It's another language, completely different from the Council's. The pattern resolved into a simple message. They are not the true power. The Voidwalkers use them. Run while you can." On the Council station, Eric met secretly with Zortak, who had finally managed to contact him again. They spoke in a maintenance corridor where Marcus had disabled the surveillance. "My people were taken 4 cycles ago," Zortak explained, his large eyes darting nervously. "Most were processed. Some of us were kept to serve the Council, to help find new civilizations." "Why are you telling me this?" Eric asked. "You're risking your life." Zortak's ridged skin flushed darker. "Because the Voidwalkers can be fought. They have a weakness. But we need help. Many species working together." "What weakness?" Eric asked urgently. Before Zortak could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the station. A voice announced, "Security alert. All human delegates report to Central Chamber immediately." Zortak's eyes widened in fear. "They know. They know you've discovered the truth." Eric grabbed the small alien's shoulder. "Come with us. We'll protect you." "You cannot protect anyone yet," Zortak said. "But perhaps soon, if we work together." He pressed a small device into Eric's hand. This contains everything I know about the Voidwalkers. Find their weakness. The alarms grew louder. Time was running out. Eric clutched the small device from Zortak as he hurried through the corridors with Susan and Marcus. Council guards moved in groups toward them, their weapons not yet drawn but clearly visible. Act normal, Eric whispered. They may not know how much we've discovered. In the central chamber, Sandor waited with several other council members. Their usual friendly manner seemed strained. Captain Johnson, Sandor said, we have detected unauthorized access to restricted areas of the station. Can you explain this? Eric put on his most innocent expression. We may have gotten lost during our evening walk. The station is very large, and the maps you provided weren't detailed. Xandor's forearms moved in a pattern that Eric had come to recognize as disbelief. You accessed historical archives that are not open to new species. The door was unlocked, Susan said smoothly. We assumed it was part of the tour we hadn't yet taken. An older council member stepped forward. What did you see in there? Artifacts from other civilizations, Eric said carefully. It was fascinating. We'd love to learn more about the species you've welcomed before us. The tension in the room shifted. The council members exchanged glances. Of course, Xandor finally said, we will arrange a proper tour tomorrow. For now, please return to your quarters. For security reasons, we must ask you to remain there until morning. As they walked back, surrounded by guards, Marcus whispered, they're deciding what to do with us. We need to get back to the ship, Eric muttered. Tonight. Back on Earth, world leaders were locked in debate. Some wanted to confront the council immediately. Others argued for secrecy while they prepared. If we show our hand too soon, we lose our only advantage, General Martinez insisted. They don't know that we know. President Miller nodded. Agreed. We maintain the appearance of cooperation while we prepare. Dr. Rodriguez stood. I've been studying their technology. We can use it against them if we're careful. The devices contain two-way communication systems. With some modifications, we can listen to them as they listen to us. Nickel had been working nonstop, building a shadow communications network that bypassed all council technology. We've established secure channels with all major military and research bases worldwide, she reported. Nothing goes through council systems. Dr. Fisher had assembled a team of the world's best scientists. We need to understand what the Voidwalkers are and how they can be fought. Every piece of information is crucial. On the council station, under the cover of night, Eric, Susan, and Marcus made their move. Using the station schematics they had memorized, they slipped through maintenance tunnels toward the docking bay where the U.S. horizon waited. Guards ahead, Marcus whispered, checking a small scanner he had built. Susan pointed to a side passage. This way. They emerged near the docking bay to find a surprising sight. Zortak stood with 3 other aliens near the horizon's airlock. One was tall with iridescent scales, another was short and furry, and the third floated slightly above the ground. We have been waiting, Zortak said. These are representatives from other species recently brought to the council. Like me, they serve under duress. The floating alien spoke in a melodic voice. I am Kari of the Luminary. My homeworld was harvested 2 cycles ago. The scaled one nodded. Drex of the Saurians. We were taken 3 cycles past. The furry one simply said, Lom, my people are nearly gone. Eric looked at them carefully. What do you want from us? To help, Zortak said. Humans are different. You question everything. You do not accept what you are told without proof. Most species trust the council until it is too late. The Voidwalkers come in 6 weeks, Kari said. We have seen the harvest schedule. Susan stepped forward. You mentioned a weakness. What is it? Zortak looked around nervously. Not here. We must leave the station. The device I gave you contains some information, but we know more. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. A computerized voice announced, Security breach in Sector 7. All units respond. That's not us, Marcus said, confused. Zortak's eyes widened. They've discovered your ship has been preparing for departure. We must go now. Eric made a quick decision. Come with us. All of you. As they rushed toward the horizon, Eric activated his emergency transmitter, sending a simple message to Earth. The trap is sprung. We're coming home with allies and information. Prepare for war. The U.S. horizon burst from the docking bay, alarms blaring behind them. Marcus worked furiously at the engine controls while Eric piloted the ship away from the station. They're powering weapons, Susan called from the sensor station. A bolt of energy flashed past the ship, missing by mere feet. Another followed, grazing the hull. Hang on, Eric shouted, sending the ship into a spin as he pushed the engines to full power. In the cargo bay, Zortak and the other alien refugees huddled together as the ship shook around them. Can we reach your world in time? Curry asked. 3 days at maximum speed, Zortak replied. If we survive the next few minutes. The ship rocked as another energy beam struck a glancing blow. Then suddenly, they were clear of the station's weapon range, speeding toward Earth. Back on Earth, the finest scientific minds had gathered in a hidden facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Dr. Laura Fisher and Dr. Alan Rodriguez led the team, reviewing the information Eric had transmitted from Zortak's device. This is incredible, Laura said, pointing to the screen. The Voidwalkers aren't just hunters. They're energy beings that feed on the life force of other species. Helen nodded. But look at this part. They have a critical weakness. They're extremely sensitive to certain radio frequencies. Could we use that as a weapon? Asked a young physicist. We could, Alan said, if we can build powerful enough transmitters. Meanwhile, in Washington, President Miller met with military leaders to review the Global Defense Plan codenamed Poseidon's Trident. General Martinez pointed to a world map showing hundreds of small blue dots. Each of these locations now has a modified council device, he explained. But instead of tracking us, they're tracking the council. We can see every ship movement, every communication. And if they attack? President Miller asked. Phase 2 deploys here, Martins said, revealing a second map with red dots across the globe. Hidden weapon sites using reverse-engineered council technology. Nickel Perry entered the room, looking exhausted but determined. We've made contact with the horizon. They'll reach Earth in 3 days with 4 alien allies who want to help us. Can we trust them? Someone asked. Captain Johnson believes we can, Nickel replied. And right now, we need all the help we can get. 3 days later, the horizon approached Earth. Council ships had been detected at the edge of the solar system, but hadn't approached yet. The ship landed at a secret base in the Nevada desert, where President Miller herself waited to greet them. Eric led his alien guests down the ramp. Tak looked around with wide eyes at the blue sky and desert landscape. Your world is beautiful, he said softly. Mine was similar once. In the base's conference room, the Allies shared everything they knew about the Voidwalkers. Curie, the floating luminary, projected images from her species' encounter with them. They come in ships that block out the sun, she explained. They target major population centers first. Drex, the scaled saurian, added, they use the council ships as shields. The council members have no choice. They either help or are consumed first. Dr. Rodriguez showed them the frequency data they had discovered. We believe this could be used against them. Does this match what you know? Zortak examined the figures and nodded excitedly. Yes, my people discovered this too, but too late. These frequencies disrupt their energy fields, cause them pain. Could it kill them? General Martinez asked bluntly. We don't know, Lom, the furry alien, spoke up. No one has deployed it on a large enough scale. Laura Fisher stood up. Then we'll be the first. We've been building transmitters disguised as communication upgrades all around the world. Eric looked at the plans. This might work, but we need to warn others. How many worlds are on the harvest schedule after Earth? Marcus checked the data they had stolen. At least 15 within the next year. Susan turned to President Miller. We need to warn them. All of them. If we can turn 15 targets into 15 allies. The president nodded slowly. How do we contact them without the council knowing? Zortak smiled for the first time since they'd met him. The council gave us the answer themselves. The beacon technology in their gifts can be reversed. We can send a message directly to every world they've marked. A message saying what? The president asked. Eric's face was grim but determined. The truth. That they've been deceived. And that they need to either stand with us or run. The skies above Earth darkened as the early warning systems detected movement. It wasn't the scheduled arrival time. The Voidwalkers had somehow learned of Earth's preparations, and were coming early. They're 4 weeks ahead of schedule, Nicole said, her voice tense as she studied the readings. Multiple ships entering the solar system. President Miller called an emergency meeting. How soon can the frequency transmitters be ready? 3 days at the earliest, Dr. Rodriguez answered. We're working around the clock, but we need more time. We don't have it, General Martinez said grimly. Our long-range scans show they'll reach Earth in 2 days. Eric turned to their alien allies. Can we delay them somehow? Distract them? Zortak shook his head. Once the harvest begins, nothing stops them. They are single-minded in their hunger. Laura Fisher, who had been quiet until now, suddenly stood up. We send the warning now, not just to the other targeted worlds, but to the entire galaxy. But the transmitters aren't ready, Susan objected. Not our frequency weapon, Laura clarified. I mean our warning message. If we can't save ourselves in time, we can at least save others. The room fell silent as her words sank in. Then President Miller nodded slowly. Prepare the message immediately. If Earth falls, our legacy will be the worlds we saved. The team worked frantically to prepare the transmission. Marcus and Dr. Rodriguez modified the Council's beacon technology to reach as far as possible. Susan and the alien allies crafted a message that could be understood by various species. Nicole ensured the transmission would bypass Council communication filters. Meanwhile, General Martinez prepared Earth's defenses, knowing they were likely insufficient against the coming threat. If we can hold them off for 3 days, he told his officers, we might just have a chance with the frequency weapons. 2 days later, the first Voidwalker ship entered Earth's orbit. It was massive, blocking out the sun over much of North America. 5 more soon followed, positioning themselves over different continents. In the command center, President Miller watched the screens with a heavy heart. Is the message ready? Yes, Madam President, Laura confirmed. Ready to broadcast on your command. Miller looked at each person in the room, humans and aliens standing together against a common enemy. Send it. Marcus pressed the activation sequence. Across the globe, hundreds of modified Council devices activated simultaneously, sending a powerful signal outward to the stars. The message was simple but carried humanity's defiance. The Galactic Council has deceived us all. The Voidwalkers come not as allies but as consumers. We've discovered their weakness. Stand with us or run. The message contained detailed information about the Voidwalker's sensitivity to specific radio frequencies, schematics for building transmitters, and a list of all worlds on the harvest schedule. Above Earth, the Voidwalker ships began to deploy smaller craft toward major cities. Council ships followed behind them, their weapons ready. They're starting the harvest, Zortak said, his voice breaking. Just then, Captain Johnson's communication officer called out, Sir, we're receiving responses to our message. On the main screen, dozens of signals appeared from across the galaxy. Many were simple acknowledgments, but some contained more. We stand with Earth. Building transmitters now. Sending ships to aid you. The deception ends today. Even as the first battles began on Earth's surface, hope spread through the command center. Eric turned to Susan with determination in his eyes. Now for Phase 2. We need to disable the Council's central communication hub to prevent them from stopping our message from spreading. Susan nodded. I'll assemble a strike team. Zortak stepped forward. I will guide you. I know the station's weaknesses. As they prepared for the dangerous mission, more signals flooded in from across the galaxy. Other species were rising up, using the information Earth had provided. Eric looked at the star map showing the spreading rebellion and smiled grimly. The Council thought we would be easy prey. They never expected us to unite the galaxy against them. Outside, the sky darkened as Voidwalker ships descended. But for the first time since the invasion began, humanity felt something new. Hope. The modified U.S. Horizon shot through space, its engines pushed beyond safe limits. Captain Eric Johnson gripped his command chair as the ship shuddered around him. Susan, Marcus, and Zortak worked at their stations, faces tense with concentration. Council station coming into visual range, Marcus reported. On the view screen, the massive snowflake-shaped station appeared, now bristling with weapon systems that had been hidden during their first visit. They've activated all defenses, Susan said. They know we're coming. Eric nodded grimly. They're trying to stop our message from spreading. Too late for that. Their plan was dangerous but simple. While Earth defended itself with the partially completed frequency transmitters, their team would disable the Council's ability to coordinate the Voidwalker fleets across the galaxy. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. Xandor's face appeared on screen, his 4 arms moving in agitation. Captain Johnson, this is your only warning. Return to your world for processing or be destroyed. Eric's face hardened. We know what processing means, Sandor. We've seen your museum of extinct species. Sandor's expression flickered. Then you understand there is no escape. The Voidwalkers cannot be stopped. Watch us, Eric replied, cutting the transmission. Evasive maneuvers. Get us to the docking point. The Horizon danced through enemy fire, taking hits but pressing forward. They had one advantage. Council ships were holding back, their crews likely sympathetic to Earth's cause after hearing the warning message. On Earth, the battle raged. Voidwalker harvesters descended on major cities, only to meet unexpected resistance. The partial network of frequency transmitters caused the alien ships to shudder and falter when they came in range. General Martinez coordinated the global defense from his underground command center. Focus the transmitters on the lead ships, he ordered. Force them to retreat. Dr. Rodriguez and Laura Fisher worked frantically to complete more transmitters. If we can hold out for 12 more hours, Laura said, we'll have enough coverage to drive them back. President Miller watched the battle maps with Nickel Perry at her side. Reports flowed in from around the world. The frequency weapons were working, but they needed more time. Look. Nickel suddenly pointed to a new set of signals. These aren't Voidwalker or Council signatures. The president leaned forward, hope dawning on her face. Who are they? Ships from Proxima Centauri, from Ta Ceti. 7, no, 12 different systems, Nickel reported in amazement. They received our message. They're here to help. Back at the Council station, the Horizon had taken heavy damage but reached its target. Eric led a boarding team including Susan, Zortak, and several crew members through the emergency airlock. The central communication hub is 3 levels down, Zortak said, leading the way through corridors now filled with smoke and flashing emergency lights. They met resistance, Council guards loyal to the Voidwalkers, but many others stood aside or even joined them. The Council's unified facade was crumbling as their deception was exposed. Susan looked at the aliens who joined their charge. How many species are represented here? 7, Zortak replied. All deceived, all victims. They reached the central hub to find Sandor waiting with the last loyal guards. You cannot stop what has begun, Sandor said. The Voidwalkers will punish us all for your rebellion. They can try, Eric replied, raising his weapon. The battle was brief but fierce. When it ended, Eric stood over Xandor's fallen form. "Why?" Eric asked. "Why betray so many species?" Xandor's voice was weak. "Because they promised to spare us. Better to serve than be consumed." Marcus worked quickly at the main controls. "I'm shutting down their coordination network. Now." Across the galaxy, the Council's control over its ships and facilities vanished. The captive species serving the Voidwalkers seized their chance for freedom. Back on Earth, the combined force of human frequency weapons and the arrived alien allies pushed the Voidwalker fleet back. Their ships, unable to coordinate, began to retreat. In orbit, President Miller watched in amazement as the massive Voidwalker ships pulled away from Earth. Reports came in from across the galaxy. The same scene playing out on a dozen worlds. "We did it," she whispered. The U.S. Horizon, badly damaged but victorious, returned to Earth 3 days later. As Eric stepped off the ship, he was greeted by cheering crowds. President Miller shook his hand. "Captain, we've received messages from 27 worlds. They want to form a new alliance. A true galactic council." Eric smiled, tired but satisfied. "I think humanity has earned its place at that table." Above them, the stars shone brightly in a sky now free of threats. Humanity had been meant to be prey. Instead, they had become saviors, uniting the galaxy with a simple, powerful warning: run.